Right, hopefully I think this is a final modification on the hubcaps and the Hillman Imp wheels. So when Paul Hickey modified the wheel nuts, what we did, or what I did, was measure the gap between, so obviously these wheel nuts hold this cap on. So I measured the gap between the cap and the wheel, and it was 10 mil. And that was exactly the same as what it was on the old wheel nuts. But unfortunately, this hubcap, when it goes on, sits slightly further out than it would do on a mini wheel. It's literally only a couple of mil. So when I tightened it down, what happened was these nuts pull in really hard on there, actually deflecting the plastic. Now, 38 years old, this plastic. 38 years ago, it was probably a little bit more flexible than it is now. But when I tightened up all four, it was splitting on the edges here and cracking. So what I've had to do is just go round and cut a thin sliver out of all four hubcaps, only literally a couple of mil, just so it sits in a tiny little bit further and it doesn't, these nuts don't put too much strain on the cap. I mean, they're still tight, but I don't want them to crack the hubcap, and that's working now. So I think we're pretty much there. Centre decals, put it on the car. Right, so after what is months of faffing around with these wheels to get them exactly right, I think we are finally there. So I've got my wheel nuts back from Paul Hickey at Hickey Race Engineering, and Paul helped me out by basically finishing these wheel nuts so they're perfect. And if you've not seen the previous videos on the wheels, just to give you a very quick catch up. So normal mini wheel nuts do not fit the Hillman Imp wheels properly if you want to use these hubcaps. They have a radius taper on the wheel here itself, and that's really important because the wheels on a Mini are stud centric. So it's the studs and the nuts which line them up, rather than being hub centric like lots of other wheels where they line up with the hub on the car. So sort of look for that when you next fit a wheel on the Mini. So it's really important to make sure that the wheel studs and nuts are perfectly centralised. So lots going on there, and one of the issues was as well that I wanted to use the original hubcaps. So these are the original hubcaps. As you'd have seen, I've just needed to trim them up a little bit. These have been cleaned off, resprayed. They're probably a little bit better than they would have been as normal. Actually, they've got quite a few layers of lacquer on and they're looking really good. And actually the black parts are in that sort of gunmetal black, so it's a little bit shiny, but I think they're going to work now. I think we are finally there after all this work. So the collars I was talking about, hopefully you'll be able to see this a little bit better now. As you can see, when I put that through the hubcap, it's those collars which hold the hubcap on, and the spacing behind it is very important because the spacing then needs to be right to line up the wheel as well. So we've had to enlarge these holes a little bit. So yeah, just thanks a huge amount to Paul Hickey because he managed to get me the perfect solution for the wheel nuts. Thanks to Minimat TV because he also helped me out along the way. Let's just put the finishing touches. This is kind of the final bit really. So I've got some decals for the centre caps on the wheel. So I'm not sure how well that'll show out on the up on the camera, but they're like the original Austin Rover logo. So kind of finishing touches. Actually a bit OCD, so we'll line them up flat with the holes. So there we go, that just finishes off that nicely, doesn't it? That looks absolutely amazing. I must also shout out and say thanks to one of the viewers to the channel. It's Mark. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name incorrectly. It's Mark Le Gallet. Comes from Jersey. He's got an ERA Turbo Mini, which he's restoring at the moment. And he had some of these nut covers, which were in much better condition than mine. Although I say that one's a bit cracked. But anyway, mine were really, really hard. These are much more pliable and not split like my ones are. So they actually go on the wheel nuts themselves, like so, and they just finish it off really nicely. So let's put these on. We'll see what it looks like. So I'm so pleased to have doing these wheels has just been not a nightmare. It's been a voyage. It's been a mission. And I did say right from the start I could just buy some mini light alloys and put them on, and I'm sure when I put the mini light alloys on Project Sprout, I think they were less than 400 quid for a set of wheels with tyres. I have spent, I hope my wife's not listening to this, unless I've missed something, I've spent £600 doing it like this. So the hubcap, like I say, it was so important because the nuts hold the hubcap on and the wheel on. So let's put the hubcap on. Hopefully you can see now. Obviously then the wheel nuts bolt through onto the studs. So the spacing of them, the length of them and everything like that is critical. So that is what it's going to look like on the car. Now, I hope you'll agree. I think that's a really good look. I like it. It's not, you know, it's not modern. It's not mini light or anything like that. It's OEM looking. It's standard looking. But obviously you've got the deeper dish and the wider tyres now. It looks OEM plus, which is what I wanted. And I might be wrong, but I very much doubt there is going to be many other minis out there. Even I'd be surprised if there's another one that is running Hillman Imp wheels with these original hubcaps, because the only way to do it properly is to basically engineer your own wheel nuts. There is not a wheel nut that does that job. So I'd be very surprised if someone else has gone to that hassle in the past. But I think it's just going to give the car a really nice OEM plus look. So let's get this wheel on and see what it looks like on the car. I am really excited. So there we go. It has taken a lot of work to get that look, a lot of head scratching, and if you've seen in the previous videos, it has been a lot harder than I originally thought it would be, but I think the look is very good. Let me pick up the camera and show you from a few different angles. So that just shows a little bit better now. Obviously they are wider wheels, it's got wider tyres on it now, so it fills this arch fully. It is slightly wider than the 5x12 and 165 6012s I've got on Project Sprout. These wheels are, I think they're ½ an inch wider. They got another ½ an inch offset. So they fill the wheel arches absolutely beautifully. And like I say, I just think they look really good. Let me know what you think down the bottom. Obviously, they're a bit old school. You don't get wheels that look like this anymore. So that's the whole idea of doing it. It looks original. These are the same hubcaps it would have had originally. It's just that the wheels stick out a little bit more now and there's more tyre on the car. So obviously when I take it to shows and that sort of thing, people might look at that and they might think that's completely original. But to the people that know, will know they're Hillman Imp wheels.